Good morning, everyone, and what a wonderful opportunity to welcome you to our virtual information session. We really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to join us this morning. My name is Kobus Oosthuizen, Dean of the Business School, and joining me as the main attractions for today are my esteemed colleagues, Dr. Jane Usher, our Academic Director, and our two program managers, Babatu Toahele and Evelyn Canigan. Colleagues, welcome to you as well, and thank you for sharing this event with us. But colleagues, let me get the conversation going by giving you a snapshot of who we are and what it is that we stand for. By means of introduction, Milpark Business School has been around for more than 20 years with a national footprint in South Africa, and our offerings are the Doctor of Business Administration, the Master of Business Administration, and then there are 4 postgraduate diplomas, the one in Business Administration, one in Public Administration, another in Investment Management, and in Banking. Then there's, of course, Executive Education, we do short courses, and finally, also involved with consulting. So we believe that we provide quality scholarship in response to Management Education 4.0 and the world of work, and that we are a key contributor to ethical and sustainable business practices informed by the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, as we all know them. And of course, we literally give wings to your career progression and your career ambitions. So friends, our mission or our reason for being is simply to develop ethical leaders for the common good. And this mission is firmly rooted in our values of integrity, respect, excellence, and innovation. So in sum, ethical and sustainable business practices are at the heart of our teaching and our research philosophy. Hence, we empower future leaders to pursue ethical and sustainable business practices informed by the SDGs, and this reason for being is built on phronesis, that ancient Greek word which means practical wisdom, emphasizing not only the development of great business leaders, but leadership for the common good. We are very proud of our students' achievements in a wide variety of sectors and believe it reflects the impact we make as a business school. The most recent PMR Africa National Employer Survey on business schools offering MBA degrees in South Africa rated Milpark Business School 3rd in the overall rankings in 2021, something we're very proud of. But to top that all, we're also very proud of being the only business school in Africa with AMBER accreditation for our online MBA. So friends, again, welcome. I trust you will find this session informative and inspirational. And I'm going to hand over the microphone on the stage to my colleague, Dr. Jane Usher. Jane, thank you, and over to you.
Thank you, Kobus, and thank you to all of our guests. We really do appreciate you taking time on, especially on Friday morning, to be with us, to find out a bit more information, and so that we can have a nice conversation. It's great to have both Evelyn and Babatu with us because they will be able to give you the intimate details on the journey that you're going to go through, and they walk with you side by side. They are your go-to people. They know all the ins and the outs. And just to assure you even more, they've both been program managers, senior program managers, really, for a good many years. So they really know what it's like to help and to support students. They know the programs inside and outside, what you can do, what you should do, what you can't do. So they are really the rocks that you can build your foundation on. They are there for you during the whole program. So before I chat to them and we have a conversation, we've got a whole team of people, and you'll see our program managers there. Evelyn and Babatu are there. We've got this team. It's a fairly small core team, and they are also there to support you, to help you. They're the subject matter experts. But then we also have our adjunct faculty, where a lot of your lecturing comes from. Your online lecturers are in the main adjunct faculty, but we haven't got pictures of all of them here because they are, we've got just so many. And you will meet them as you move through the program. Some you might meet more than others. And they are academics with industry experience. So a lot of them are working in industry. Most of them are working in industry because you want the roles or what you learn to be directly related to what you do. You need to be able to use whatever you learn and how you learn. As you start your first module, whether it's on the postgrad or the MBA, you start being able to implement it. And your companies can start seeing the changes that you are making, even if it is just in your thinking. Okay, I see we've got a few questions that Pat, we will be answering you on all of those. So that is our team there. And we really have, in a way, an open door policy. Where just, make an appointment, send an email, say, can I chat to you, whether it's, me or Kobus, and especially Mabatu and Evelyn. They are your go-to people, but we'll chat to them a bit later. I just want to give you a quick overview of why this program is unique. What is it about the postgrad and the MBA that we feel can add value to you? So the number one thing is 2 postgraduate qualifications in 3 years. So if you come out from an undergraduate qualification, whether it's a BCom, BBA, whatever it may be, that entry requirement sees you into the postgrad. Our postgrad has overlap modules onto the MBA, and therefore you already start forming that foundation that you require for the MBA. And there are 4 exemptions that you would be able to get once you successfully complete your postgrad and want to carry on. So you've already got, let's say, that under your belt. Okay, so that's great. We feel that, and as I said before, it's immediate application to your work environment. You want your career to progress. So as you are learning, you are starting to perform more and more from a strategic level, knowing the business as a whole, because you start understanding general management environment, HR, marketing, finance, so that you can start making decisions that are well-grounded, that you understand even more than what you do now. So that is what this degree is about. Yes, it's academically underpinned by a lot of rigor, but in tandem with that, you're going to be able to apply straight away. And that's what we want. We also believe that in the way that we put together the curriculum, it will enable you to have a positive contribution to society. And that, I think, is evident in this day and age. We need to be thinking about not just ourselves, not just, money and what's in it for me. What about our communities? We need to find ways of sustaining and building up communities. And that's what one of the expectations of MBA graduates is, to show your impact, whether it's in a leadership perspective, on entrepreneurial perspective. That's what the goal is. So obviously to improve your career, to help you to either stay in corporate if that's what you want to do, and once you get to levels, and you can start influencing people as you go along, for the good, and that's what we want. So within this, our integrated curriculum has got technical skills, and embedded in there are those soft skills. And I always come back to the view, and it's my view, that those soft skills are the skills that are needed in business today, because you need to have a thorough understanding of yourself, personal leadership, emotional intelligence, that builds your resilience, because times are not easy. It's not an easy life that we are in at the moment. So how are you going to deal with all these dilemmas and crises that come at you? How do you navigate that? That's where you need your power skills, your soft skills. And that is embedded throughout the MBA and the postgrad. So and any qualification that we do. We also feel that it's quality scholarship. So if you're doing a report for your manager or your exco team or your management team, you will understand why it's important to ensure that the data that you gather is valid, it's reliable. You look at different perspectives, and that's what we're wanting you to do, to find different perspectives, not just the norm. We want you to be able to think critically, to write critically, to debate on certain things that will eventually come to the right solution, say for your organization, or it's in your personal life, everywhere. So quality scholarship that's not just going to sit on the shelf somewhere or mean nothing. That is what we want. It's solid and that you can use it. We also then encourage you to use your own voice. It's pointless if you're just regurgitating what some guru supposedly knows, because things are changing so fast. You've got an opinion, you know so much, and your voice needs to come through in your activities that you do, in your assignments that you do, in your exams that you do, based on theories that are there. And you can disprove, you can say, everybody talks about Porter. Let's think about it. Is he that relevant today? Maslow? Ooh, maybe not. That's up to you to start thinking about, and to really think deeply about these concepts, and what should we be looking towards the future? How can we implement it? And it's your voice that we want to see there. You'll be analyzing complex issues. We live in a complex business world. We live in a complex personal world. So how do you do that and start appreciating the different alternatives? Because we are really, in a way, so conditioned to the way we see things, perhaps a specific viewpoint perspective from the West. What about different perspectives from the East, from Africa? So we want you to start reading, investigating, coming up with your own opinions that you can, again, back up. So what I'm saying here as well, there's a lot of reading to be done. And it's not only scholarly articles that you've got to wade through. You'll start learning to do that in a quicker fashion, easier, but gather a lot of information. Perhaps not just Facebook. That's not really what we call a valid source. So, but we will enable you and give you that understanding. And where do you find these so-called sources, and how to check, do you agree with them? So that is what we want you to start doing, thinking differently. And it's a process, and you're going to feel dissonance, and that's great, because now you're learning. And that's what we want. That's what you want, so that you can progress in any choice of career and goals that you want. We also look at local issues, what is happening locally, nationally. And locally, right around your local municipalities, where you stay, what is happening in your business communities there. Nationally, we've got lots to talk about nationally, and on a global issue. Because that is impacting daily on everybody's lives. So we look at that in relation to where we are with the fourth industrial revolution, the impacts that we are seeing, that we have seen, and that we are going to see coming forward. And then what about our sustainability goals? So that, as Kuba said, is our underpinning. And it depends on what module you're doing, but eventually it's integrated as to how, can you actually make a difference? And we definitely can make a difference to move towards those development goals, which are really important. We look at developing a sense of accountability, responsibility in individuals. So the decisions that you make, you need to be accountable for. what you do and don't do, you need to be accountable for and responsible for. So we want proactive students and planning, and so that you are equipped that in your studies or in your work time, you've planned so that if something happens, you are nimble. You can move and you can make a plan still to deliver something of good quality. And individuals and businesses have this responsibility towards our community and our environment. And I think you can understand that our environment is under, pressure. We need to be aware of that. And are we aware enough, and how can we make a difference? So in that, we want you to develop your creative and imaginative solutions that are credible. Now, I've just said to you, it's academically based, it's practically based, and now I'm telling you, oh, but you must be creative and imaginative. And that's where the magic happens, because you start thinking differently and integrating certain concepts and that come up with a fantastic solution, or perhaps a product or service that we hadn't thought about. And we see that from our design thinking in the postgraduate qualifications. What people are coming up with, it's phenomenal. And it is, and that's group work. So you're working with other people, and that's what you do at work every day. So also part of the emphasis on these qualifications is to work in groups. And we all know that can be really frustrating. But how do you deal with that? And that comes back to your soft skills. That's how you're going to move up in the corporate ladder, or that's how you're going to start growing your own business. And, own businesses, small businesses are what we're needing to start making sure that they are sustainable. And the skills that you get here will help you do that. Personal, interpersonal, professional skills need to be developed on an ongoing basis. So our leadership module emphasizes your personal leadership, because if you are not self-aware and understand yourself, how are you going to work with other people? And then how are you going to be professional in that? So it's really a bit of a pyramid, and we uncover personal leadership, self-awareness. What does that mean? Okay, for you practically, and then we would take it into a local, global context. Because if you're going to be a world leader, which you could be a, obviously head of a big corporation. If that's you need to have all of these skills. And then again, as I've said to you, from the full-time faculty's perspective and from all your lecturers, adjunct lecturers, there's a lot of support, because we want you to do well. We want you to be successful, and we don't want you to drag it out. So, 2 years seems like, or 3 years seems like a long time. Even if you're going to, some people, when they enroll in an undergrad, it's like, whew, this is so long. It's going to take me so long to do it. It goes very quickly because you are working, you're studying, and that balance. We'll chat a little bit later with Evelyn and Mabatu. How do students manage that balance between working and studying? I can tell you, I've done it. Most people have done it. Well, a lot of people have done it. Kubus has, Evelyn and Mabatu as well. It's very difficult and challenging to do that. And another thing that I would encourage you to do is we have alumni that are more than willing to have a chat with you and to mentor you, to help you navigate those initial challenges. How do you get buy-in from your family, from your employers? How do you make sure people don't sabotage your journey? Because that does happen. And so those are some of the things we want you to be aware of. But really, in a nutshell, these two programs, whether you join the PGD and carry on to your MBA, we always encourage people to have the foundation of an undergrad, or to then move into the postgrad, because that really equips you nicely for your MBA. If you've already got a postgrad and you've got the requisite NQF level, you have been prepared to a certain extent for postgraduate studies, because it is very, very different from undergraduate. We expect you to be responsible, to prepare for things, it's yours. And that's what we expect from adult learning. But again, we have the support. So I think I've talked a little bit, possibly too much about that. Just one of the things that we want to be aware of, and I'll chat to Evelyn and Mabatu a little bit more about, this is a very important decision for everybody to make. And it's investing in yourself, which is, in my view, the best, most important investment you can make, because then you are free to do so much more. And we understand the economic times that we are living in. So we are working with Capitec to help our students to gain funding at a decent, reasonable level, so that you can actually do these qualifications. So if you also chat to Noni is what we call her, your student advisor, she will advise you on either payment plans or funding through Capitec, which is, it's great to be working with them, and they've helped a lot of students. So I'd encourage you to also have a look at that. Don't see finances as, the barrier. We understand it's important, so there are ways that we can help you. But now I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to just leave that slide up. And so we're going to have a discussion, Evelyn and Mabatu and myself. And please, if there are questions on what we're talking about, you ask questions, and then we can address them as we go along. So I'm going to ask Evelyn, just because from an alphabetical standpoint, her name comes first. Eve, tell us a bit about, what do you do as a program manager? What are the things that you need to be doing? So the tasks, and what kind of journeys do you walk with? Start telling us a little bit, say, about the admission process for us, because it's quite onerous, but not too bad.
Thank you, Jane. Hi, everyone. I am Evelyn Canigan, the program manager for the MBA and PGDBA online programs. And I work closely with the students during the program. And part of my function is to support, to guide the students and to assist them with the program to ensure that you have a successful educational journey. So I am involved from the admissions phase and provide support to students during the program as well. Like Jane asked, in terms of the admissions phase, once we receive an admission application, we review the candidate's application, their documents, and conduct an interview. The admissions interview is more of a requirement on the MBA and consists of a one-on-one meeting with the program manager to understand if the student meets the requirements for entry into the program, to understand what their expectations are, and we discuss the details of the program. So some students find it a bit daunting to have an interview, but really it is more of a conversation to discuss the program in detail and what our expectations are and what your expectations are. There's also an entrance assessment that is scheduled as part of the admissions process, which is now fully online. This is scheduled with an external service provider called Top Talent Solutions. So a candidate will receive a link to take the assessment. It is approximately 3 hours. There is no preparation required. And some of the areas that are covered are numerical reasoning, verbal reasoning, logical thinking, the learning ability of the candidate, and the ability to concentrate. There is no actual pass mark for the assessment. A report will indicate areas of strengths and areas for progress that a student may improve on. On completion of the assessment, a report is also forwarded to the candidate so that one will understand what areas are open for development and where their strengths lie. So once a student receives the outcome or the the acceptance letter from Milpark, the program manager guides the students on which modules to register for and the actual structure of the program. We also conduct an induction for new students where we go through the student handbook, the rules, the expectations. We go through the student portal. We discuss type of assessments for each module. And in the induction, we also have a session for academic writing and study skills. So there is quite a bit of support that is provided through the academic journey from the program manager as well as from the academics.
Right. Thanks, Eben. And so tell me, I mean, you've done so many of these interviews with MBA candidates. What are the typical areas of concern that they have and that they bring to your attention in these interviews?
So I think the most challenging thing that has come up in quite a few of the interviews is time management. So that is generally managed through showing commitment, a student's commitment toward their qualification, to ensure that they have a schedule for studying and dedicated time set aside for study and research. I think it's also important to let both family and your colleagues know that you are studying so that if you need that extra time, it is provided. So I would say the biggest challenge is time management, but students coming into the qualification usually have a good handle of that, and they are prepared and committed to progress.
That's great. And with the TTS assessment, have you found that students do go back and look at their development areas and work on that? Or because for us it's very valuable, to see how you can support students if they may need that. But that report that they get from it, just in your experience, do they use it or can they use it? Is it easy to interpret, or is it one of those that you actually need a very, very clever person to interpret it for you?
Jane, the reports are quite short and very detailed, and it specifies what a student's strengths are and what their weaknesses are. So definitely students utilize the report. In the interview as well, we have a copy of the report, so we discuss those areas. And I think it helps the students to plan their progress. Most of the students are quite excited with the report to see where their strengths lie and what they need to improve on.
So it's actually a valuable exercise in the admission process.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and just to also reiterate, so there are a few steps that they need to take. So there are lots of documents that they need, matric certificates, their degrees. What other documents do they need for the admission process, Eve? And like, why is it important?
So a student for the MBA, for example, would also need to send in an essay motivating why they want to study their MBA. So it's important for us to see what the student expects, basically, and their reasons for getting onto the program. A student submits a copy of their CV. So part of the admissions criteria for the MBA is that a student has approximately 3 years of relevant work experience. So with the CV, we see if the student has that experience, which industries they've worked in, and we can also relate that to the lecture in the online classes, which industries different students are coming from, so we know how to proceed with the content and examples and case studies and so forth.
Yeah. Great. Thanks, Even. I think for people to understand why we have a fairly rigorous admission process, I keep wanting to say admin, I don't know why. Admission process is, to make sure that you are ready for this, because it is a big undertaking from an individual perspective. So some of the advice would be, have your CV updated and ready. Do a really good motivational letter. The TTS assessment test is great because it's for you. It's not, as Evelyn said, a pass and a fail. So I think that's really important to know. It helps you develop either way. And then, so that's why we do all of that for a postgraduate qualification. So people think, why do I have to even give my matric certificate? Why do people need to? They've perhaps already got an undergrad. Eve, why do we need why do they need to find their matric certificate?
Jane, it's actually part of legislation that students submit their matric certificate. If a student can't find their matric certificate, and if they just have a copy of the results, for example, then they can let us know that they're in the process of applying for one, and we will process the admission application pending the actual copy of the matric certificate. But it is part of legislation. Yes.
Yeah. So we know it can be a bit of a pain, but it's everywhere. It needs to be done. So those matric certificates, people are like gold. You've got to keep them, scan them, keep them. So I'm going to ask Mabatu now. Thank you, Mabatu, as well, for being here and sharing your insights, because you've also been on different on programs and now in the postgrad area and in the business school, which you've been in for a while now. Tell us a little bit, in terms of the registration process that we've been talking about. What steps are entailed? How do people do it? Do they need to come in to an office? What do they need to be aware of, and what should they have ready so that it goes smoothly?
Hi, Jane. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much. My name is Mabatu Twile. I'm the MBA and the PGDBA program manager for the contact learning student. Jane, the registration process is not lengthy at all. I think the main problem with the registration is that students do not know where to start or where to go once admission has been approved. So with the POPI Act, everything has gone online. So we do have a sales support email address that students can go to for the online registration. They don't have to go to an office to do the registration. They can do it in the comfort of their own home, office, or anywhere they are. What we normally say in an interview is that the error that we pick up is that students find it very difficult to do a module selection for themselves. So what we normally advise them is that once your admission has been done, do contact back your program manager so that you can have a one-on-one with them so that they can guide you on your module selection and a study plan for the duration of the 2 years or the 3 years. So what we normally do is we look at the students' time that they have available for that academic year or for that block or the semester. Then we advise them on the number of modules that they need to take or that they can take, accommodating their lifestyle, their work, and also their personal lives. What we normally tell them is that this is not a race, it's a journey. So they need not to rush the process and burden themselves with overloading themselves with a number of modules. But they must just remember that one module at a time will get you to the finish line. Exactly,
Mabata. And I think that's the key. So the way we've changed the structure of both programs, where we used to have purely 12-week based and you do 4 huge modules at a time. We've now tried to streamline that and put that people do 2 modules.
2 modules per block.
Yeah, per block of 10 weeks, so that it's chunked and it's a bit easier. So you focus on those 2 modules, and it's designed so that you can use what you learned in the first 2 modules throughout. So you start integrating. But again, if we would say try and do the 2 modules as planned in that. However, some students can't do that. So we encourage you to at least start making sure that you look at the year and you can see what you need to do for that year, and that you don't miss out on a module that's then only offered once, and it takes you a little bit longer. Do you find, Mabatu, that the 2 modules a block has helped students?
It has indeed, because students can now focus more on what is required for those modules. In terms of time, it gives them a lot of time to focus on it, unlike spreading the time durations that they have with the 4 modules. So it has lifted a bit of burden on the student, and it gives them a bit of a lot of time to focus on those modules that they are enrolled for the specific 10 weeks.
And I think also from our point of view at Milpa, we want you to go, because it's basically a master's, or it is a master's qualification on the MBA, but even on the postgrad, we want you to get, if you're a master of something, it means, you're the go-to person, you're a master of it. So that's why we also designed that. So students do have a little bit more time, even though it's quick, it's 2 areas to focus on.
Yes.
Mabata as well. So once a student's now registered for their specific modules or 2 modules, what can they expect from what we call the course environment? What is there? How do they navigate that? Those kind of areas. I see Mabatu's. Oh, there she's back.
Sorry for that. So basically, once we've processed the registration, the student have access to the online learning portal, which we call My Milpark, on the very same day. What we say, or what we normally say, is that as soon as your registration is processed and you've received that confirmation in a form of an SMS or an email, go online as soon as possible to access the course material. The sooner the student familiarize themselves with the system or the online portal, how it works, the easier it gets. What we also normally say is that there's certain documents that before you go into the online session or the classes that you need to download. Those documents, such as the assessment guidelines, because they tell you they give you a detailed description of that subject. They tell you what to expect in that subject. They tell you the type of assessment structure that is in that module. So that is what we normally advise the student. As soon as you receive the SMS, go online, download those documents such as the assessment guideline. The assignment is always there. Download it, start working on it as soon as possible. There's no early time, there's no late time. The sooner you start, the better. Because believe you me, when you enter that online station, you will have so many questions that you will not even believe that on the first session, you've got those type of questions to pose to the lecturer. So the online portal is available throughout. As soon as you're registered, it is available to students on the very same day that the registration is processed.
And that's very good advice, Mabatu, thanks, because it's quite exciting to just go on there. But as you said, download those documents and start reading those assessment guidelines, because it's very important that you know what to expect. So you start a module with the end in mind. What kind of exam is it going to be?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the types of exam or assessments that we have.
They vary per module. We've got what we call the online test that basically assesses the student's readiness for those modules. We've got group assignments, we've got individual assignments, we've got individual exam online submissions. We also have group exams and presentations. So those are the type of assessment that we have on the qualification.
So you need to know, I mean, if you have a presentation to do in a group presentation, you need to know that. But
you really need to know. Yes.
Yeah, it's like, oh, didn't know I had this. I didn't know I had a group. And also with the groups, tell us about, you don't need to tell me, but if you can tell everybody about how we, which modules we have group work on and why, and which we don't.
The modules that have group presentation or group assessments, it's your typical modules like your SRME, ENTI, IBST, MS, MA, and let me just think. Now you've just thrown me off the bus stop.
Yeah, so it's all those
yes.
acronyms that you use all the time.
It's all of those. And
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so what we've done is in social responsibility, there's an individual part and a group part, group assessment at the end. The same with marketing and sales management, because often marketing teams work together. That's why we've done it on that. So it's not every single module. We found that was a bit much for people. So entrepreneurship as well, which is the ENTI, and you'll get used, we're finally used to all the the acronyms on these. So it's like, well, how do you not know what that is? But even Kubis gets confused with that. So, and your integrated strategy as well. There's a group assignment and it's a simulation. So you basically, I don't know if Andres, who owns the module, will agree, but you play a game. You play a proper business game, and that is so exciting. And our students are really up there. We I don't want to name drop, but we beat big universities in global kind of benchmarks. We've been doing really well in those global benchmarks with this simulation. So that's really fun. So that's something to look forward to. And I know, so group work, let me just talk a little bit about group work. Eve, you've also had a few instances where what happens in group work? What are the positives and what are the challenges? And how do we help?
So the student receives obviously the assessment online on the student portal, and they start working together as a group. So they have meetings. We schedule groups on MS Teams as well that the students can meet on. The challenges that sometimes, what the student learns with the group work is to work with different personalities and to work with, people from different backgrounds, to work with different levels of management, because obviously in the postgrad and MBA, we have different levels of management joining the program. So there's a lot of networking. There's times when students learn to lead the group, and there's times when students stand back and learn to be led. So there's often a project manager or for that particular module on that group that leads that group. Some of the challenges that students experience is with group dynamics. We've had very few groups that have come and said that they have concerns. So we have the student meet with our coach, the Milpa counselor, who guides them on how to proceed with the group assessment. And it's funny that I think it was 2 years ago that we had a group that had a major problem and didn't want to work together. But in the end, on that ENTI presentation, they did the best. So their performance ended up being the best. So it's a learning experience for everyone.
And what we also have there, maybe you can say when we do have those issues, what support is there?
So the group can come directly to the program manager, which is either Mabatu or myself, and we will speak to the group members. And if necessary, we'll get the HOD involved. But we do have a really nice coach at Milpark, and she's been successful with most of the groups so far. Her name is Pravila.
Yeah. So we would set up a session if it needs to go to Pravila, and sometimes it's interesting what comes out and why people are feeling the way they're feeling, and everybody also, I think, gets that at work as well. So that's why we do it in the program, so that you start to learn how to deal with certain types of people, which is how you're going to progress and go further. Going back to Eve as well, what kind of resources are available on My Milpark?
So Jane, the student portal My Milpark, here your students will find soft copies of the study guide, recommended additional reading, information on the textbook, the timetable, case studies uploaded, articles, the assessment guideline, which is a very valuable tool as soon as the student registers, because this outlines the topics that will be covered and some of the online tests, the assessments, the weighting of each assessment. So there's quite a bit of information on the student portal. You'll also find slides, you'll find links to the classes, you'll find the discussion forums. And we also have an online library as well, where a student can find resources for research, and the online libraries to download journal articles, for example.
And that's very valuable. The Zebra Libris part of that has got thousands of books that you can build a bookshelf with. And as well with the library, we've got EBSCO-Host, which is a really nice database, and we've got Emerald, we've got ProQuest, we've got business journals. And if you need assistance, we do go through it in the induction for the postgrad and the MBA. Sometimes you forget that, but we do have a librarian that that helps as well, which is very helpful. I mean, sometimes you forget, oh, where do I find the icon for the library? Do you think, and this could be either Eve or Mabatu, so you get textbooks that you need to buy, you get recommended reading perhaps, and the study guide. Do you think it's worthwhile for students to use the library if they've got the information there?
I think it's absolutely necessary to use EBSCOhost and the relevant journals. As I think research is one of the core requirements of the MBA and postgrad. So the more examples, the more reading you do, the more references you use in your assessments will obviously be better. I think that's what the markers are looking for, is how much of research you've conducted and different views and opinions. So basically application of what you've read as well.
Yeah. And if I think about that now, we that's really important. And in research, we've got specific ways of referencing. What do students need to know? They do have tutorials on that, and there are different kinds of referencing methods. We use the Harvard referencing method. What do you think? What must students do, Eve, Mabatu, to make sure that they know how to reference properly? Because you can't keep going back to your lecture to say, do I put the title first or the author first? Because we've got to turn it in. It's not a quiz, by the way. It's just it's also one of the things on the one of the resources that I find is incredibly important for students as well as for academics, for lecturers, and for me. I've done it. Is I take the Milpark referencing guide. It's like a Bible. Yes. Yeah. And that is on all your. It's on your course pages. And we don't want to be using too much paper these days, but my advice is you print that and you put it next to you when you're studying, because we have a big focus on what I said before is using your voice, but you've got to have sources. So how do you get that balance right? Like you have said, you need to read and you need to find all of those journal articles, but you can't just copy and paste because that's not your voice. So the way that you get past that or make sure that it's your piece of work that you're submitting is to understand how to reference and then ensure that you use what we've got a tool called Turnitin. And Evelyn and Mabatu will also be able to guide you with this, why have we got Turnitin? When people are doing assignments and exams where they need that, what do you suggest? I mean, because they've got it goes through Turnitin. And as program managers, you get those calls where the students, I can't get it up. Give people a little bit of advice on how do you manage that? Because if you want to Turnitin report, how long do you have to wait for it? And then what must you do?
So generally when students are submitting their assessments, everybody is submitting it at the same time. So to ensure that you receive your report in time, I would suggest uploading it at least at a minimum of 48 hours before the due time and due date. And it doesn't have to be your final submission. It could be a draft copy. So the link to upload your assessment and to turn it in is available all the time before your assessment is due. So you can upload your first draft copy to see what your score is, to see if you've referenced properly. So it gives you a report basically of the areas that need to be referenced. So my suggestion would be to upload as early before the assessment is due.
Exactly. And then once you've done that, you've got your report, you can fix things. You really can go through and say, I forgot to paraphrase there, and then it takes your Turnitin score down, and then your examiners are happier because they don't see all this. And it does come up in lovely colors, which you don't want your assignment to have lovely colors on. So thanks for that, Eve. I think that's very important that people bear that in mind. If we go to the online sessions, the live sessions, Mabatu, can you tell us what can the students expect from that?
Um, all our online sessions, the nice thing about it is that they happen after hours from 6 o'clock, basically. All sessions are recorded. All our online sessions are offered via MS Teams. Um, that's the one biggest challenge that we get with students when logging on into the MS Teams. Is that when registration is processed or when your admission is being captured, student received a username, a unique Milpark username, which is in the form of an email address and a password. That is the email address that they will need to create a new MS Teams account with to access all our online session. So once a student has registered that unique email address, it is as easy as 1, 2, 3. You just click on the link and join your class. The recordings are normally available at the end of the session under the MS Teams files. That's where the students will find the recordings. What we also do is that we also post the link on the course page where students can just go on the course page and access those recordings to the sessions.
Yeah.
We advise students to attend online session. Attendance is a must, because once you miss a session, you miss a whole lot of information that is very important and vital for that specific module. So attendance is very crucial. If a student cannot attend at any point, we kindly request them to let us know, because with the qualification, there's what we call a due performance. There's a minimum number of sessions that a students need to attend to get that due performance. So they need to always advise us if they cannot access, if they cannot go online to access the session for the day.
Yeah, true. And that interaction as well between all the students, because it's not just sitting listening to us as it is now. Your lecturers will be asking you questions, so you need to prepare it beforehand. So that's the time for the magic to happen with your peers and with your lecturers and all of that. So they're very important, and they're quite fun. I think they're quite fun because, different lecturers do different things, and you have breakout rooms. So it really is good. Just have. So also tell me, so if I'm not registered, can I get into the session?
No. So what basically happens with the online session is we pull the registration list and we add the student onto the Teams class based on the registration list. So if, for an example, you forgot to do your registration, we would not be able to pick you up to add you to that specific class. So it is important for students to make sure that 2 weeks prior to the class starting, they are registered for that module. Because also internally, there's certain processes that we need to do to make sure that they do have access to those online sessions.
And I think it's also important for people to know with those sessions, not anybody can go in. So it is a private session where, you're all together and you can ask your questions. And you're not going to have anybody lurking who shouldn't be there. So it's secure. That's what we want. It's secure. It's a secure space as well. So, in terms of that, MS Teams works quite well. So we've really, I think, covered, a lot of the areas that prospective students might be feeling uneasy about. I'm hoping that everybody here knows you can go to Evelyn and Mabatu. They are the face of the qualifications. They're the people that you will build a very strong relationship with your program managers. You might not think that now, but they're the ones that you go to. And if you've got issues and problems, we need to know about it. If there's something happening in your family life that is impacting your studies, tell them. And then they can find ways of supporting you. And that's why they play a vital role within the programs. And that's why we wanted to start at least showing you what they look like, so that they've got a face as well as a name and not just an email address. So please also be aware that you can go to our Mabatu and Evelyn. They're there. That's what they want to do. why they get up in the morning, is to help support students. So thank you both very much. I really appreciate you, giving us your insights and that, and we'll do more of these as well, which is always fun. And then, so I'm going to just finish off here. We've got questions. If anybody wants to know anything, there could be a one-on-one meeting. We will do it via. At the moment, you can still go to Milpark, but rather we set up a Zoom meeting or a Google meeting or a Teams meeting or whatever is going to work. The website has got all the information, so you're welcome. Please go there. Let us know if you want to join. We've got a webinar series, and this is what I want to emphasize now, is our focus really is to develop our students in all their dimensions. And this is to assist everyone to take your careers to the next level, to start moving up and getting to your goals, whether it's your own business or corporate. We will be focusing on that, and we're having a series of webinars and other events throughout the year where we have experts giving advice on how to make your career aspirations come alive and work. So we would love it if you would let us know if you want to be part of that webinar series. We started that in, I think it was 2020, and it's been very successful. We've had wonderful webinars, so please join. And just another thing in terms of the AMBER accreditation, you have a global network once you finish, global network through AMBER, and in this global network, you have access to their career service as well. So it's not just local, global, it's global as well. Not that we want anybody to go anywhere. You can stay here, but you can work for global companies. So we really encourage you to, those are nice benefits, and that is what we are focusing on. So hopefully we'll see some of you in the webinar series as well, that we host. I think it's once a month now, and our first one is coming up with a very good speaker. So it'd be lovely to see all of you there. But I'm going to finish off now. Thank you, everybody, for your time. Thank you, Mabatu and Evelyn, for your insights, your advice, and being available for everyone. Thanks. 16th of February is our next webinar, and that's going to be awesome. So I'm going to say thank you. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful, fabulous Friday, and hand over to Kobus just to finish off. Thank you, Kobus.
Jane, thank you very much. And to Evelyn and Mamato, thank you for sharing your insights. You live close to the proverbial coalface on a daily basis, so you are the experts in terms of process and everything else related to the program. So also a special thank you to yourselves. Perhaps just before I wrap up finally, just to elaborate maybe a little bit more on Pat's question on the RPL and the credits. So Pat, Jane has indicated there that it is, there is an RPL process, obviously, but that would be primarily aimed, or it exists for people with the appropriate experience and so forth, who do not meet the minimum entry requirement. So the detail of that you can also view on the website, on the program, mbs.ac.za, sweet and short. What are the particular requirements that we have there, but the importance would be to consult with the program manager because of the limitation set by the regulators of allowing only 10% of RPL intake per intake. Now that's just one portion of it, and I'm maybe reading something else in your question as well regarding the credits. That's a total different aspect. So, for example, if someone has done a master's in whatever else it might have been and wants to come on to the MBA, or have done a postgraduate or an honors, doesn't matter, and they find that in the curriculum there are modules that they believe they've already acquired or demonstrated their competence thereof in their previous qualification. And there's also a process for them applying for a credit. Of utmost importance, however, to note is if you apply for a credit at master's level, the evidence or the other qualification that was done prior must be at the same level. So you cannot apply for a credit from a level 8 onto a level 9 credit, but you can apply for a level 8 credit onto level 8. Similarly for a level 9 onto a level 9. But Pat, that's just a little bit more info. If you want further discussion around it, please connect with us, and we will gladly, talk you and walk you through any other questions you might have in relation to that. So, colleagues, thanks. So let me wrap up quickly, and perhaps just with the question, why Milpa? Some takeaway thoughts here, just to close the loop, is that we are, and I know I'm emphasizing this, but it's something we're very proud of, but we're the only AMBER accredited online MBA on the continent of Africa. Surely there will be others that will aspire to that going into the future, but as we stand today, we are the only one. Then, of course, remind ourselves of our PMR Africa ranking in 2021 of in South Africa, third overall for the MBA, but also significantly first overall for executive education. Now, as far as our curriculum and syllabi is concerned, we also believe that our content is contemporary and it's relevant, which is facilitated by experienced facilitators from industry, as Jane noted earlier on why is that important. Then, colleagues, we endeavor to create a learning environment that promotes growth-producing experiences for our students that impacts all three modes of learning, namely cognitively, emotionally, and physically. Now, physically doesn't mean, that you do labor necessarily, but when you immerse yourself in a learning experience, we are physical beings. Our bodies also involved. I think the Romans taught their children that nothing could be learned whilst sitting down. So, when there's projects and things, and I know, physical contact, movement, and etc. is somewhat constrained, but I think you get the gist of what I imply by the physical component of it. So that is what we endeavor in really these immersive experiences. And then, of course, we believe that students are the focus in our teaching and learning transaction. We are here because of our students, not the other way around. And, together we aspire to make tomorrow beautiful. As you've seen on our little mantra, tomorrow is beautiful. We speak it already, and we collectively, students and faculty, endeavor to make tomorrow beautiful. So with that, thank you again so much for your time. We wish you a splendid weekend. Hopefully not a working one, but if so, well, life happens when you plan something else. And with that, I wish you all the best and hope to engage with you in the near future again. Thank you so much.